Welcome to Crypto Talk Radio, the podcast for everyday investors like you. Visit us on the web at cryptotalkradio.net. And now, here's your host, Leister.
Thank you for that, Bailey, and welcome everybody out there in Crypto Talk Radio, found at cryptotalkradio.net. Hello and welcome, or welcome back. Unlike DaVinci Jeremy, I actually am doing a re-record. Got 30 minutes in and realized that the sound was not what it should have been. So I'm going to re-record because I do not want to have anything that impacts your ability to listen to us here at cryptotalk.fm or our alternate site, talkcrypto.fm, where you can find all of our past episodes and listen to your heart's content. I will be briefly talking about the DaVinci Jeremy fiasco that happened. I have some news bits I'm going to be covering here in a moment. I'm going to be digging in a little bit to, just a very little bit, some anonymous thing to the anonymous donor who provided information through our forum at cryptotalk.fm regarding the chaos known as block DAG. I want to say thank you for that. I sent you a follow-up email to ask one clarifying question only. If you didn't see it, please do chime back with that information. It's more for my own sanity, but I will dig into what you shared. And then once I'm comfortable with what I find, I'll provide my thoughts. But I would like to get the answer to that question just to make sure I'm covering all my bases. And to those people at BlockDAG who don't like what they hear, too bad, so sad, because you pissed enough people off that this is where we gotten to. That was said in the email. Let's go ahead and talk some cryptocurrency. CoinMarketCap.com. We're going to zoom out to the month chart for Bitcoin, where we sit at about $92,000. There was a little bit of a pump. We are still in a downward trend, but there was a little bit of a pump, likely because people are anticipating what's going to be said at FOMC. FOMC is where we would hear Jerome Powell tell us whether there is or is not going to be a rate cut leading into the Christmas season. People anticipate there would be a rate cut again. I've always said that mortgage rates in particular should be no higher than 3% by now. It's silly that they're not. How does that impact the market? If your rates are too darn high, people that are wanting to sell their home, right? They want to sell their home, but they don't. Maybe they want to upsize, maybe they want to downsize, maybe they want to do something else, but they don't want to absorb a new, 5 or 6% mortgage. They want to have something that's a low percentage. So they're sitting on it, waiting for the right time for them to take their equity and go buy something that's more suited to what they want. That means that the inventory that's out there that's lower priced is not available for the layman. The people can't get in. And those people that say first-time home buyers are having a hard time getting into the home market. So you'll hear on the news all the time that there's a housing crisis. The housing crisis is fabricated. What's really happening, and I'll tell you from personal experience from my house, right? So the price of wood is bullshit. It is. Straight up. So just for my garage, for me to redo the garage the way I want to do it, I'm talking somewhere close in the neighborhood of about 70 grand. That's stupid because I bought my house for $265. So I'm sorry, I don't buy this because there's nothing in the garage. Like, we're not talking, the garage has a little bit of electricity and that's about it. It's just sticks. I just started putting up some insulation. It didn't have insulation. It barely had any foam. It's wide open. It has a door and that's about it. So then why is it 70 grand? Because the price of wood, the price of that type of wood. And then you have the labor, but really it's the wood cost. It's just outrageous. It's out of control. The price of concrete is out of control. The price of manufacturing is out of control. So when they're trying to build these new houses, two things happen. One, they're creating HOAs, which are scams. They're doing the cluster mailboxes, which are scams. They're doing everything that is the antithesis of home ownership because it's kind of shuffling you into this narrative that somebody else is still in control. The cluster mailbox is basically giving control to the USPS to dictate how your packages and mail are delivered. Because what they then do is don't deliver the package to your door anymore versus having what I have, which is the mailbox is right attached on the house. The mail guy comes and drops it off and walks the street like normal people do. The only thing we're missing out here is the paper boy tossing the newspaper at the door. I don't like the USPS delivering the paper regardless. The point is that the American dream is unreachable for those first-time home buyers. You might talk about FHA and all these programs. They're largely scams. I speak from experience, especially with the state program. It's largely scams. Escrow is a scam. I'm sorry, it is. Anything less than 20% down is a scam. I understand. You don't make a lot of money. It's the best you can do. I'm still going to tell people getting 20%, figuring it out is going to be the best decision you made. Don't do escrow unless you can't keep up with your bills, because that's all you're really talking about is your insurance for home and the tax. Essentially is what you're talking about with escrow. It takes care of the payment for the mortgage, it takes care of your tax, and it takes care of your insurance. If you can take care of the insurance and you can take care of the tax because you can overpay the insurance, and they might even give you a discount that you don't get with escrow. Escrow can choose to increase the amount you have to pay every month whenever they feel like it. It's a scam to me. Mortgage insurance is a scam. Mortgage insurance applies if you pay less than 20 down. It's a scam. That gets rolled in there too. HOA dues might get rolled in there. HOA, as I said, is a scam. Okay, what are you doing? You're paying a bunch of old people to dictate to you how to run your house. My point is, the housing market is in trouble not because of a lack of supply. That's a lie. What happens is the supply that people can afford, okay? The supply people can afford, people are sitting in those houses. They're not selling. They don't want to sell. They don't want to go anywhere else. The ones that people cannot afford are sitting on the market or being eaten up by the wealthy mother fathers out there who turn it into Airbnbs and rentals and stuff. Or you have a flip, which is basically a piece of garbage house. They do the bare basic nothing to make it look like something and then flip it on the market for 3 times the price. That's what you have. Getting the mortgage rates down encourages people to sell. It encourages people to come up out those homes that are more reasonably priced, that are in decent, good shape and just need some TLC like mine. And it encourages those first-time buyers to get into something that's more their speed. That's what I feel, and that's why I'm confident Jerome Powell is likely not, I'm 50-50 in my mind, but I'm confident he's not going to announce a cut. And if he does, the cut's not going to do much because he's not going to go as far as I think he should. I know they talk about shocks to the market. I don't buy that narrative. I honestly believe that we need to have significant cuts across the board to spur spending. Spending spurring is part of the problem. If we don't encourage more spending, the prices are not going to go anywhere because that's just the way that the thing works. So I'm simply saying in my mind, at the end of the day, we have to be smart and understand about how this all works. And if we don't do that, nothing's going to work out. Nothing's going to play nice in the big picture. The CFTC just talked about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC as acceptable for leverage, U.S. leverage when you're doing trades. XRP, the XR peddlers out there were very pissed off because all these YouTubers told you that XRP was already in bed with the government, that it was going to be the conduit. I even heard Bleeze on one point say, yeah, this XRP, it's going to take over the Fed now. It's going to take over ACH. It's going to take over Wire. It's going to be the one conduit for you to send money across, cross borders. That's not happening here because CFTC, in charge of commodities, is telling you that the real answer is Bitcoin that they trust because it's most ubiquitous. Ethereum surprises me, but it shouldn't because idiot Vitalik had already conspired with the government to launch Ethereum and then later making it unregistered security by making it proof of stake. And so they've kind of given him a free pass. And then the period he was dumping on your head. The point is, I was surprised that Ethereum got a free pass because it's Ethereum. It's essentially an unregistered security. It's what it is. And then USDC doesn't surprise me. It's manipulated. It's centralized. Circle is in bed with the government. They have a freeze mode where they can lock down your wallet anytime they feel like it. So it's just like fiat. That's why they like it. USDT is not on the list. DAI is not on the list. There's so many others not on the list, but XRP stood out. Solana was asked. Solana was not allowed. Doesn't surprise me because Solana is a fickle, unreliable chain, let's be honest, filled with a bunch of garbage thanks to Pump.fun. So it doesn't surprise me that Solana got left out, simply saying that the XR peddlers out there are very pissed off because various YouTubers told you that XRP was going to be the future of the way government was going to transact money. And that turned out to be a lie. And I'm just telling you, I saw many of them saying the same shit. XRP is going to be the future. Cardano's going to be the future. None of that came true. They were just guessing. And in some cases, maliciously telling you this is going to happen to get you to FOMO in there so they could dump on your head. I can't say specific ones that were doing that. I'm saying that their motives might not have been on the up and up. Let's put it that way. Binance just recently came into the news and got embarrassed, their pants down with Vaseline off the side because allegedly They had an employee on the inside who was using his brand account to promote his shit coin that pumped to 46,000% and then dumped off of it. Binance allegedly said, well, we fired the person and we called the law enforcement, all the other stuff. I got to thinking, what is it that Binance is so pissed off about? Well, number one, improper use of the account. That's a policy breach. It's not against the law. The dude didn't do anything that broke the law. He did something unethical. Sure. If he's going to be sued, it should be by the people who lost on the shit coin because those people took a fake, essentially, marketing campaign, broadcast on Binance, but not real, not vetted, not authorized. So those people have a case. And to me, I would want to see those people sue Binance and this numbnuts to get recoup some of that money. To me, Binance has no real argument here to be doing the case. What law did he break by using his brand account? He broke a policy, sure. You fired the dude. That's all you can do. Lock down the policy. I'll tell you, I suspect this happened more often. I suspect there were a lot of times this actually happened where internal Binance people worked unilaterally and they just didn't get caught. This dude got caught. The other ones didn't. I can't say for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me to understand that this was not an isolated incident. I think that this has happened on a repeated basis with all of these garbage tokens that just show up out of nowhere on Binance with no real vetting, and then they kind of run with it as if it was, but it wasn't really. All theory, all speculation. Other people are pissed off because they discovered that the United States government has certain wallets sitting on bags of Zcash. If you don't know what Zcash is one of those privacy-based tokens similar to Monero. The government has for a very long time, under the Gary Gensler era, crapped on privacy-based tokens. In fact, they attacked Tornado Cash at one point. They don't want the regular American to have any sort of privacy of anything. They want to understand and duly note every single transaction. Remember, Kamala Harris called cryptocurrency criminal currency because they think that it's used to perform crimes. Of course, fiat is too. They don't speak about that. They only speak about cryptocurrency because they say it allows them to hide their tracks. They think that the privacy tokens allow people to hide tracks. Yeah, they do. They sure do. But it's no different than fiat and going into some fiat-based transaction in physical and doing a shady transaction. If you didn't know about it, it's in cash, you wouldn't know that somebody was breaking the law. That's why they don't want you to use fiat, because they don't want to have blinders on as to this type of unscrupulous behavior. So they've adamantly been attacking privacy-based cryptocurrencies because they need, in their mind, visibility into everything that you do with your money, whether the money is physical, digital, or otherwise. Just like with the bank, they need to know every single thing. Like right now, you can't do a transaction, cash transaction over 10,000 or greater, or you're going to get flagged because they think that you might be doing some criminal type stuff. Wires have limits. There's all these limits. Savings accounts have built-in BS. They do that because they're trying to, in their mind, it's the only way to keep eyes on criminal enterprise money movements from the mob era. It's all nonsense because ultimately, if they're going to commit the crime, they're going to do it and they're going to hide it because chances are they're going to use fiat. The limits that they do in cash, withdrawing cash, is because then they can trace, okay, this person just withdrew $50,000 and took a Brinks truck to get it. Now we can trace what's going to happen to that money end to end because all of those serials are duly noted. This is the same. This is the equivalent. They want to trace what's happening. So people were questioning why then, if we know you want to do that, we know you want to breach privacy. So why is it you're sitting on privacy tokens? Why is it okay for you, but it's not okay for the rest of us? Folks, you already know the answer to that question. Justice for me, not for thee. They don't want you to have privacy. They don't want you to have control at all, but it's okay for them. A lot of the politicians have been speaking out, including Gary Gensler at a point, have been speaking out against privacy-based cryptocurrencies. So them sitting on privacy-based bags tells you what? It tells you it's all smoke. They were telling you that because they wanted you, it's Chewbacca. They wanted you to look in the other direction, not pay attention to what they were doing in silence, snakes in the grass, as it were. Bitcoin has gotten some eyebrows raised because of things that Leister already told you to be the truth, which is the increase in the number of corporations sitting on major bags of Bitcoin and the potential impacts on liquidity for said. I told you before, Bitcoin's getting a little bit too centralized for my good. Some YouTubers have been throwing around stats that tell you, well, corporations only have 5% of the Bitcoin. And what they don't understand is that it's not about the number of coins. That doesn't mean jack shit. What matters is the amount of money that is contributed to the liquidity and the loss of said money and its impact on said liquidity. So it doesn't matter that individual retail people hold a vast majority percentage-wise of coins if the vast majority of them only hold 0.0001 of Bitcoin because they saw DaVinci Jeremy tell you to buy at least some sats, and I'll get to him in a second. It doesn't matter when you have this corporation like Strategy pumping millions and millions of dollars into the damn thing, knowing that they're going to sell at some point, and what people are finally asserting is that this would have a significant impact on liquidity for Bitcoin, which is going to impact the price. We know that's the truth. We saw what happened with FTX. Bitcoin went down to $12,000 from 60 grand. This is real. It takes only one major event, and that wasn't even billions and billions of dollars we're talking, but one major event can crap the thing. Would people buy it back up? Likely. But as we've said, there's nothing that's holding Bitcoin up other than sentiment, the belief that it could be something. I'll grant you, DaVinci Jeremy and other YouTubers telling it's going to be $1 million someday is just, it's that hopium that's in all crypto, right? There's nothing fundamental around it. Being in the ETF helps, but there's nothing really fundamental around it. And all people are trying to say is that you have to understand that these companies that are taking out debt or extending debt in order to buy into this asset, they're increasing their risk vector. They're increasing how likely it is they're going to need to dump just to sustain business. I would draw an analogy to Washington Mutual, the bank that shut down ages ago. Washington Mutual, they were just extending themselves because they were jumping on the bandwagon of the housing market at the time. And I don't want to go into the deep details, but the housing market, essentially what happens is you do the home, right? Loan, mortgage. You're supposed to do screening. You're supposed to vet their likelihood to do it. A lot of these banks were skipping some of the steps. A lot of these banks were approving people that shouldn't be able to do it. A lot of these people are doing no money down homes, which is chaos. A lot of these banks, then what would happen? You're getting all this. It's kind of like crypto because the price is going up. You're getting all this interest, everything else, and equity is skyrocketing. People start using their homes as ATMs, which is essentially creating debt for themselves. They use this to buy a bunch of crap or nonsense, or in some cases, they're using it on home improvements because they want to flip the house, because that was happening a lot too. And it's a form of arbitrage. You're just faking money left to right? And then there's the housing bubble crash, the Bear Stearns, the Lehman Brothers, everything else. What happens? These homes, these mortgages, this debt was being sold off as securities. And then you have these investors who are buying them on the open market. Then they stop because everything's grind to a halt financially. They stop buying this. Now the bank has to sit on bad debt on the books. Now people are losing their jobs, which is a different impact. They're losing their jobs. All of a sudden, the bank has this debt. It's not getting paid. Houses are foreclosing. People start going underwater because the house prices go down. They took out home loans as ATMs, so now they're in the red. I told the story, I think, about the guy that he was selling a house and it was up north of San Diego. I can't remember exactly where that place was. It wasn't, Hemet's off there. It was somewhere in the north, but he had a house that if you looked at the driveway, it was like this fancy schmancy cobblestone, like really nice cobblestone, shiny driveway. You go inside, he had gutted. It was a really nice first floor. He had gutted the entire upper floor. So we're talking 3 bedrooms. He gutted the whole damn thing, basically turned it into a man cave loft on the upper floor, if you can picture this business. But so now it's basically a 1-bedroom house. That's what he had. And he couldn't sell this thing. He was trying to sell it for, I think, 220 grand. At the time, that was cheap to me, and I was actually going to get it. This is when I was first encountered to a short sale as a process, and I didn't understand what it was until the realtors explained it. He's like, if you're going to do the short sale, you're probably never going to get this thing closed because the bank doesn't want to do a short sale. The bank wants to get their money. They want to get the full money. This dude, I think he was underwater. I want to say it was like $150,000 or something. And he was just trying to get out of it because there was nothing he could do. He was never going to be able to catch up. He had done this gutting. I know he paid crap tons for it because it was a nice looking house. He had to put at least 200 grand into this house. So if I assume that was home equity, I'm going to figure his house is probably worth 400 grand. And he's trying to sell it to me for 220-ish, and I'm like, hey, that's a good deal for me. Bank's not going to approve it because they're losing shit tons of money, right? That's what was happening at that time in this era. It was short sales were going through the roof. It was hard for people to sell their homes. Banks were sitting on bad debt. WAMU ultimately had to shut down. And I think WAMU got bought out by Wells. I believe that's true. But, because the bailouts, right? But WAMU was one of the worst. WAMU, Wachovia, those two were some of the worst. They were just funding loans. We're talking no doc loans. We're talking no down payment loans. We're talking no inspection loans. You name it, and they were doing it. And then HELOCs, the home equity, they were issuing it like candy, killing the business. That's what people sense is likely to repeat when you have something like this corporate business on Bitcoin, is you create this bubble, and it's going to influence the price of Bitcoin down if that turns out to that triggers a sale or something happens on the debt or something happens in the larger economy, macroeconomics, something happens to that business. Like I think way back to Sharp Electronics. Sharp Electronics was one of the first in solar. They were at the front of it, but they lagged behind. They were not able to get the wider worldwide to jump in on it. So they invested crap tons of money into solar at a time the world wasn't really ready yet. Sharp was one of the first to do digital displays. You see them all over the place in airports now and stadiums, but at the time, nobody was doing digital displays. They were still doing the physical. Now you see them all over the place. You see them on food menus at Burger King and everything else. Sharp was one of the first in front of it, but people were not ready for it at that time. So their investment went to waste. You look now and pretty much everybody's doing these things and they're doing them on the dirt cheap. They're cheap compared to what the old was. Same with plasma TVs in the early days of 2000. Point, people anticipate that's going on with Bitcoin and these companies sitting on major amounts of money that could affect the liquidity of Bitcoin might trigger a similar type of bubble situation. And AI, people think is a bubble off the side. So you got two different macro level events that people anticipate could trigger a bubble type event that would affect things down. And they're saying that the amount of money in Bitcoin would impact its liquidity such that the price would be negatively impacted to a significant degree. I told that roundabout story not to freak you out, but simply consider two things. One, if it happens and we can get Bitcoin down to a point, it's an opportunity. Two, this is why a diverse portfolio is always important. This is why I always hammer about precious metals, because I like diversity in portfolio. Don't YOLO into one. I know YouTubers are telling you to do that. Just buy Bitcoin. Please don't just buy Bitcoin. Diversify, because I guarantee you we have an increasing risk of bubbles popping up here because we're YOLOing into shit. AI is probably on top of my head as the one thing that I'm like, I don't know why you're doing what you're doing, but it should stop. AI should stop. It's a scam. I don't want to say scam, but it's a fad. Stop it. Stop investing in this crap. Everybody's doing it. Stop. It's not the right answer. It's not. Stop. And then what's happening with Amazon and USPS, that's going to trigger another bubble simply because USPS is the only last mile. So that's going to have a negative impact. We're right near Christmas. We got that disruption. All the other carriers are having problems. Everything is bubble right now to me. Tariffs, the fact that sometimes you have to do duty, which means that when the package is delivered, you have to pony up for the tariff money that they couldn't get. It's like collect on demand. It's like the old days of COD, right? Cash on delivery. But unfortunately, they told you to not take cash out the bank anymore. Anyway, I've digressed long enough and I've ranted long enough. Bottom line, I think we need to be stronger about diversity. When I say we, I'm talking about everybody who talks to you. We need to talk about diversity of portfolio and stop telling people to YOLO into Bitcoin, because diversity is the only way to insulate yourself from stuff. And I will include fiat in that to some degree. And I would say cash, because it scares me. I make good enough money, but it scares me to think that there's so much that influences all these different assets that previously were trustworthy. And I'm not suggesting that they would, completely kill the business, but I am concerned at the influence that I'm seeing on some of these assets that previously were kind of bulletproof, and nobody's been able to create something that can compete effectively. And I don't think they ever will. I'll close out by simply sharing, like I said, thank you to the anonymous person who gave us the tip about the chaos known as BlockDAG. And again, I sent a follow-up email. I'd like to get a response on that email because it would help me as I do my analyses into what you shared, just to make sure I'm, dotting my I's and everything. And I guess what I'll say, because I don't want to dig anything or share anything because I have not dug yet, but what I'll say for BlockDAG, anybody that's listening, the truth of the matter is people are very pissed off in your community. People are not happy with what you're doing. Gigelos is playing bullshit games. It doesn't matter. You can go to cryptotalk.fm and you can see it doesn't matter. Shit's still there. And I have multiple ways to post whatever I need to. And the audio is spread all over the interweb, so none of his shit matters, right? But there's so many people that reach out directly and they're sharing information directly because they need a platform. They want a voice putting it out there, and they want a voice putting it out there without any sort of lean bias. I don't have lean bias in the project. I'm on the surface. I'm waiting for next 30, and that's about it for me. I am looking at it as I'm a cryptocurrency auditor myself, and I audit readiness. That's literally what I do. And I see flag after flag after flag, and I've called them out, and I've gotten it right every time. It's easy because they're actually so rudimentary about it. Like if I think of the thorium people, Libero, for those that are listening from that world, even the thorium people were more advanced than what I see of these idiots, the BlockDAG idiots. I'm like, it's shocking the level of incompetence that I see from this team. I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I would say they've lied. Yes, that's true. They've pushed dates multiple times. Yes, that's true. And I suspect that the LOI is smoke. I suspect that there's nothing behind it. That's theory. I suspect that Gigelos is going to maintain a measure of control. It wouldn't surprise me if this mystery investor is indeed Gigelos. I can't prove it, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because maybe, just maybe, what they did is they signed up this document that's BS. It doesn't mean anything, to appease the audience, to appease Reed and appease everybody else. But as part of the agreement that Turner said he couldn't share, Gigelos said, okay, then I want to buy the vast majority of the supply. And then what would happen? Assuming they launch, it's going to be a pump and dump. Like I said, that's February. That's assuming they launch. We don't know that they'll launch because we still don't have miners. We don't have what they said that we should have by now. And we don't really have confidence in their ability to deliver. All we're doing is taking on their word for whatever good that is. All I'll say for the BlockDAG, if you are listening, people, understand, right? All the bullshit takedowns, they don't matter. My content is all over the web. I can go as many distribution mediums as I want. 20 is good enough for me. I don't care about YouTube. I really don't. Nothing you do matters. The easy answer is just to fix your crap, dude. Or I guess lady in this case, because the tip that I got is around one of the fairer sex. All you got to do is fix your shit, dude or lady. Just fix it. Okay? Fix it. I offered to help. You don't want the help, that's fine. Okay? If you're so much in the bubble, fine. I'm not going away. My content stays out there because I'm documenting as we go. Because one of two things will happen. Either you're scammers or you're blistering idiots. And we have to document so that people can reflect back that Leister, cryptotalk.fm, called this spot on, or Leister got it wrong. I like that smoke if I get it wrong, provably wrong. Today I've not been proven wrong. So far, I've called everything spot on. And I don't pat myself on the back. I just say, give my credit. That's it. Just come give my credit. That's all I've ever asked, because I'm trying desperately to give them the benefit of the doubt, and it's not worked out so far. Cryptocurrency is one of those things that is a moving target, and I've stopped aiming for it. By the way, separate. I talked about DaVinci Jeremy. Something's wrong with this dude. He did an upload. He might have edited it now, but he did an upload. And for the first 2 minutes, he was talking into nothing. The microphone was nowhere near him, like it was way off behind him. So he didn't even prepare. He didn't even say, okay, let me do a mic check. Let me do a lighting check. Let me do my hair. Let me make sure everything's all good. He just started talking. Something's wrong with this man. I don't know if it's Bitcoin related. Somebody told me he's broke. I don't believe that. But my point is, it might be Bitcoin related, that something's wrong with this dude. Something is not right with DaVinci Jeremy. But on a different episode, which was with Mr. M podcast, they called out that silver, it got over $60 recently. It's hitting another all-time high is silver. And if you go back to one of my episodes a couple months ago, I told you, I say precious metals is something that people are sleeping on, and I don't think that you should. Silver right now is at just shy of $62 per for silver. And I said, right now, silver should be a much stronger percentage of gold than it is, because gold is $4,200. If we understand the proper price of silver, we have to think that silver should be somewhere in the neighborhood right now, probably about, I'm going to say $600-700. Easy. So I said, I warn people, I feel, whether right or wrong, that precious metals are going to have their moment in the sunshine. And that's all of them. That's copper, even, which isn't really precious, but it's still one of those valuable metals. It's copper, it's silver, palladium, platinum. I think all of them are going to have their moments in the spotlight. So I'm going to recommend to you, consider precious metals. I'm not making any money off me telling you that. I'm saying it to help you out, because I think it's one of those where at some point in the future, these are going to be strong value. Why am I so adamant about it? Consider that silver's ask price, so the market rate, is 61, 62, somewhere in there. If I just look at jmbullion.com, which is the site I normally buy off of, JM Bullion is asking $66 for something that's market is 61, 62. The premium is it's just short over 10%. Do you understand? Like, to me, I'm telling you, there's something happening. I don't know what it is. I don't know the long game of it. All I'm suggesting, and I'll pull a DaVinci Jeremy on this one, if nothing else, right? If nothing else, get a little bit of silver. Let's say you ignore the rest of them. Just get a little bit of silver and just sit on it, right? If you have $100 somewhere, ideally 120 so you can get even, but you know what I'm saying? Get a little bit of silver and just sit on it. Just toss it in a safe somewhere. Make sure you have a safe. Toss it in a safe somewhere. Get the kind of silver that has an assay, ASSAY, because those are higher value. They tend to be higher value than the ones that do not, or that are any condition. The any conditions are cheaper because they could be dented or scratched or whatever. At the end of it, they're going to be melted down. But the ones with assay tend to command a higher price when it is you go. And then you might ask, well, what kind? You can get bars, you can get coins, you can get whatever makes you comfortable. Coins is more comfortable for people. That's fine. I'm saying get a little bit of it. Just sit on it. Toss it in a safe. Forget about it. Because I have a feeling. I've been saying it for a while. I got a feeling on silver. Gold, I think gold's hit a peak, and I think it's going to come down a little bit. Palladium, platinum, I think are going to go up. I think they're going to go up, but slower pace than silver does. My gut speaking. I don't know for sure. And then you're asking, well, how do I sell it? There's traders out there for precious metals. There's also the local pawn shop, but they'll rip you off, right? But there's usually traders. You might even have your local area one that specifically does precious metals, that's asking for it. They want it, and they're willing to pay. over what's called spot, right? They're willing to pay you a premium for it. It's not easy to find them, but they're out there. You can also disregard what I'm saying, and you can focus on cryptocurrency if it makes you feel better. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm recommending because I got a feeling. However, right or wrong, I can't say for sure at this moment.